For the rarest mounts in the game, I got a hold of a database that tracks how many people own certain mounts. That will be the basis for the rarity for all the mounts on this video. Now let's get started. At number 10, we have the Black ProtoDrake. The Black ProtoDrake was a reward from the Glory of the Raider 25-man Achieve, an achievement that had you complete a bunch of achievements in the 25-man versions of all the raids in Wrath of the Lich King before Old War came out. Once Old War came out, they removed the mount from the achievement. Now Blizzard does this all the time with ahead of the curve achievements, but this was the first time it happened, so not many people actually completed the hard achievements necessary to get the Drake. Having this mount means you were one of the few hardcore raiders in early Wrath who had a guild that cared about doing achievements, and it's rare because of that. Number 9 is the Reigns of the Heavenly Azure Cloud Serpent. This mount is awarded to players who get the achievement for having 300 mounts. So, only people who spend a long time and actively go out of their way to farm mounts actually have it. But every expansion that adds a ton of mounts makes it easier and easier for casual collectors to get it. I mean, you can get 6 mounts from your garrison alone currently. Who knows what kind of easy methods they'll add in the future. Number 8. World Boss Mount Drops. Most of these mounts have a very low drop rate and require killing a world boss and getting lucky enough to loot the mount if it even drops. Of these world boss mounts, the Heavenly Onyx Cloud Serpent is the rarest. This mount has such a low drop rate from the Shaw of Anger, most people didn't even think it was in the game for months after Mist of Pandaria dropped. The other Mist world bosses drop mounts as well, and each is extremely rare, but the Heavenly Onyx Cloud Serpent is the rarest of the bunch. Number 7. TCG Mounts. TCG mounts, like the famous Spectral Tiger, come from Blizzard's old trading card game codes that would rarely come in packs. You can pretty much just buy any of these mounts though, as long as you're willing to spend real money. And the rarest of these TCG mounts is the Swift Shorestrider. I'm not sure why it's the rarest, but my best guess would be because it's not as cool looking as all the other TCG mounts. I mean, it's just the blue Tall Strider after all. Number 6. Vicious Saddle Mounts. Vicious Saddles are awarded during PvP seasons to players who win at least 100 3v3 games or 40 rated battlegrounds. So, pretty easy to get for PvP players, right? Well, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, after getting a Vicious Saddle, you can turn it in at a vendor for a mount. And the rarest of these mounts is the Vicious War Kodo. Why is the Kodo the rarest? Well, because for one, the other options for the Horde players look a lot cooler. And 2, because more players who PvP play Alliance over Horde, because the human racial is overpowered. So, not many Horde players actually get the saddle in comparison to the Alliance. Just a side note, I actually have the Vicious Warwolf on my priest from an RPG achievement in Cataclysm. Turns out, it's one of the options to buy with the Vicious Saddle as well. What's funny about the wolf is that I can't actually use it on any of my other tunes. Turns out, Vicious Saddle mounts aren't account-wide. They're personal use only, just like class mounts. I didn't even know this was a thing until researching mounts for this video, and seeing one of the mounts I own on the rare list. Anyways, back to the list. Number 5, the Tribute Mounts from TOGC. These mounts could only be obtained from the achievement A Tribute to Immortality, which required you to complete Trial the Grand Crusader on Heroic 25-man mode without anyone dying and while still having all 50 attempts left. Heroic attempts was a Wrath of the Lich King only system that limited the amount of times you could wipe on heroic bosses. What this meant was the raid had to complete the raid on its hardest difficulty on the very first try, every time, without anyone in the raid dying to a random stuff. There's a reason the mounts awarded from this achievement are super rare. That's not an easy thing to do. A single DC or hard lag spike on one of your 25 players could cause the whole raid to lose the achievement. Both Alliance and Horde got different mounts for the achievement, and the Alliance one is a tiny bit rarer than the Horde one, meaning more Horde players were able to do the achievement. Back in those days, most hardcore raiders went Horde for the superior racial, so that makes sense. And I'm not just saying this is a Horde bias. Horde really did have better PvE racials back in Wrath. Number 4, Gladiator Mounts. Gladiator mounts are only given to players who earn the Gladiator achievement, which requires them to have an arena rating within the top 0.5% of players in your battle group. So only the best of the best arena players got these mounts. When Gladiator mounts were first introduced in the Burning Crusade, it was one of the few ways to actually get a 310% speed mount. Back then, 310 speed wasn't something you trained. Only specific flying mounts had them. All the other epic flying mounts had 280 speed. Since each mount is only given to a very small number of players, and it's different every season, so each mount is only given out once. These restrictions make Gladiator mounts some of the rarest obtainable mounts, with the Cataclysmic Gladiator's Twilight Drake being the rarest of the bunch. Not sure why though. Number 3. Old school armorless epic mounts. Back in vanilla WoW, before patch 1.4, the epic mounts, that being mounts that could run at 100% extra speed instead of 60%, were just different colored skin mounts of the 60% kind. Blizzard decided to add a whole bunch of armor to mounts instead to make them look different from the normal 60% mounts, and removed the reskin epic mounts. Since this change was made pretty early on in vanilla, only players who both played around the start of WoW and happened to actually have 1,000 gold to buy the mount have them. And 1,000 gold in vanilla WoW was like 200k gold today. Sure, you could farm it up, but it was going to take a long time for any non-rich player because of the very few ways to actually make gold in vanilla. Oh, but you didn't have to pay for riding training at least. If you bought the mount and were high enough level, you could just use it. And since epic mounts were so expensive, most people only had one. You also had to carry them in your bags, and mounts had a 3-second cast time, and you auto-dismounted if you entered water. Another thing that probably led to the rarity was the fact that Blizzard allowed people to exchange already bought mounts for the new armored ones at no cost when the change was made. Of all the old epic mounts, the Black Ram is the rarest. The Frost Ram was the second rarest. I guess there just wasn't a lot of rich dwarves in vanilla WoW. Number 2. The Black Qiraji Resonating Crystal. The Black Tank was the only legendary mount in the game. How do you get this legendary mount? Well, simply be the first person on your server to ring the gong that opens AQ40 for your realm, meaning only one person per realm got this mount. What was unique about this mount was that it was the only mount that you could use both in AQ40 and outside. Back then, you could only use mounts you found inside AQ40 inside AQ40. Now there is no restriction on what mount you can use inside, but you still can't use the special bug mounts you find outside the instance. Except, of course, the Black Tank. For a while, the Black Tank was actually specially coded to be able to mount inside AQ and outside, which for some reason allowed you to cast it instantly if you're already mounted on a different mount. Not really all that useful, but hey, it was unique. Alright, and finally, the number 1 rarest mount, and that is the Fluorescent Green Mechanostrider. This mount was given to a European player in replacement for his original Mechanostrider that he deleted by mistake. The GM who gave him the replacement mount gave him this off-colored one by mistake, and it's the only color and name for that mount in the game, making it both the rarest mount and the rarest item in the game since only one player has it. Alright, and that's it for the list. And for those of you who might be wondering, yes, the Love Rocket is a rare mount too. If I extended the list, it would make like number 15. Meaning there are still a few other mounts in the game rarer than the mount that's famous for being rare.